Hi, and welcome to the first Dive Into Reiki podcast of 2025. And my goal for this year is to bring you, of course, interviews with Reiki masters and teachers and practitioners from around the world, but also really try to dig a little bit deeper into other Japanese arts that may give us insights into Reiki. For example, the other day I was watching No Theater, which is a Japanese kind of opera slash theater, and the stillness of it really inspired me, like how someone could be so still without moving and yet have such a wonderful, strong presence. And it was also almost like floating. So that contrast was amazing. So again, every Japanese art could give us insights, at least cultural insights, or some other principles can apply to Reiki and just enrichen our understanding. I'm going to start today with an interview I did a couple of years ago together with a wonderful practitioner called Anya van Til, who lives in the Netherlands. We interviewed Sensei Parker. She is a seven black belt, sorry, in Iaido. And again, you had an interview last year with Patrick Swen Sensei. What I love about the interview with Parker Sensei is that she has probably 10, 15 years more practice than Patrick, but she also talks about that connection with everything. Like once you become one with the sword, how that oneness also is present in martial arts. I felt it very inspiring for my Reiki practice. She also talks a little bit about space, occupying our right space in life. And in a big part, it applies as well to women and having, either not too little, not too much space. So I really enjoyed that interview and I hope you will enjoy it too. We will also have in the future in the works, I'm already pre-interviewing someone who does ikebana, the art of arranging flowers, that also has a lot of Buddhism principles behind, like Reiki, because it actually flourished really at the time when Zen Buddhism came to Japan. So that would be very interesting. And then some, of course, interviews with Reiki teachers. One of them who hopefully will come through very interesting with an approach a little bit different from what I've been presenting. So I'm really looking forward to that. I also going to try to hopefully find people who do the tea ceremony, who do perhaps I can get no theater and other Japanese arts like calligraphy that will be able to give us those insights. So that's the goal for 2025. I also really want to share my two goals for the year. I will be personally in my personal practice, really focusing on two things. One is, it's in Spanish, it's called Serena Confianza en la Vida, is to have serene trust in life, just really trusting things to develop as they should and trusting that my practice will also carry me through in a way. But it's just having that equanimity through life, no matter what happens. So being very centered. The other one is really like dig deeper into the precept of gratitude. I think sometimes gratitude, we feel it very light in our heads. I want to like really explore how we can actually consciously and intentionally um, use gratitude to let go of anger and worry and to just have like, a better feeling life given everything that's happening. It's a little bit hard not to be worried and angry and to be grateful. And also, how can we feel gratitude with our whole bodies, right? Not just a hashtag. What kind of effect has that in our bodies and well being? So, those are my goals for 2025. There is a lot of amazing Patreon practices that will happen. So, if you're struggling a little bit to keep a consistent practice, we meet according to your level once to three times a month. We practice, it's very affordable, it's really for everyone to be able to join and share whatever wisdom I've gained from other people, from my experience, and also my still learning. This is a journey, so we keep improving and learning every day. But practicing together, having that community really makes a difference, especially when we do those healing exchanges, is something that hopefully could benefit you. So I invite you to check it at patreon.com/dive into Reiki. I'll put the link in the notes. And wishing you a wonderful year. I know probably it's not starting with the best sometimes auspices, but through gratitude or practice, hopefully we can find joy. We can become a beacon of light into these times that are a little bit dark, and we can become an anchor for others who are struggling, and also an anchor for ourselves. Self-care comes first. When we're well, when we're centered, that ripples out towards others. So it's a time of really probably upping our personal practice, um, probably more than ever. And I'm looking forward to it. So without further ado, I will let you with today's interview with Parker Sensei. Again, that I co-interview with the wonderful Anya van Til. Thank you so much, Anya, and love to all. Besos.
Here with Pam Parker Sensei. She's teaching Iaido, and Nathalie will be introducing her in a second. We are talking today about Ki Kentai Ichi in Iaido and probably in life. Just before we start, I would like to say that we are live, and for those who watch us live, you're welcome to ask your questions. We will try to answer them directly. And if you're watching it later, we would be happy to read your questions after and also answer them after this session. So let's go.
Perfect. So there is nothing like, there are no words to introduce Parker Sensei because she's wonderful. She's my sensei, and this is not me being biased. She's probably one of the most iconic Iaido senseis in the world. So Parker Sensei, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me and for setting this up. I'm really happy to take part.
Perfect. So I would love to start with what is Iaido, because a lot of people are not that familiar with it, and a little bit, how do you see it as a Budo?
Hi. Okay. So Iaido is the art of drawing the sword. That's a short description. In today's world, in the All Japan Kendo Federation, it is one of three arts, the other two being Kendo and Jodo. There's other international organizations, such as the All Japan Iaido Federation, which is EI only, as far as I know. And in All Japan Kendo Federation, with three arts, in Kendo, we wear armor, we use a bamboo sword, and we have real opponents.
And are you those senseis in the world?
And in Jodo, we use wooden weapons, and we have real opponents. But in EI, we use real swords, but we don't have a real opponent. Our opponent is always imagined. We wear armor. So we have to build up our ability to imagine properly so we can actually make sense of what we're doing. And then when we make sense of it, hopefully someone watching you can also make sense of it. The short version of that is I have to see my opponent, and when I do it properly, you watching me can see my opponent also. You can see the necessity of what I'm doing.
That is a great description. I also love in the eye, will we say the opponent is ourselves? It's just always better than we are, so we always improve. Which
indeed, right? Yeah, you don't have to imagine somebody bigger and faster and stronger and younger and smarter than you, but somebody kind of like you, only a little bit more, so that you have to, as you say, you have to improve in order to overcome them, and then you pump them up a little bit more, and you are able to overcome even more.
Thank you. And thank you also for being very patient, because the eye is also very, like, for me, it was very difficult, and for most people it's very different. So, as a sensei,
EI is very, it's not well known. Even sometimes in Japan, people don't know what it is. Almost everybody, if you say Kendo, almost everybody says, oh, right, Kendo. And they have some idea of it. But for Iaido and also Jodo, but we're not talking about that, they're smaller and they're less well known. Kendo and Iai come from the same roots of swordsmanship, of the samurai class, and its dissolution and the transformation of swordsmanship from military and fighting, dueling, all that stuff, to something more like modern Budo, where we are not attempting to learn how to kill people or even how to defend ourselves, but how to know ourselves, how to become better versions of ourselves, how to actually be, I'm going to say, a little different in the world than we would be without it.
that.
Great. Yeah. Even we are told in Aikido, we're always told that Aikido techniques come all from Kendo. Of course, they were all done with a sword, and sword. Sometimes if we don't understand where and how it should work, then we use a sword to see, this is where it comes with, this is the origin, this is the source. Great. But I guess you were speaking about the being your enemy being invisible, and I guess it takes a lot of concentration to imagine your enemy and to stay concentrated on that enemy. And I think this is where Kiken Tai Ichi comes into. And when you came up with this term, with this notion, with this topic, it of course it talks to me as from the point of view of Buddhism, where we know it as body, speech, and mind, or body, energy, and mind. Mm-hmm. And where body is body, we know mind is mind, is understandable, and the energy or the speech is a kind of link between the two. Would this translate into how you see Kiken Tai Ichi?
A little bit, but first of all, I didn't come up with this concept. I came up with it as something we could discuss.
Yes.
Kiken Tai Ichi actually comes from Kendo at base, and in Kendo, it's a description of the proper striking. You're using good posture, the right part of the sword to strike the correct targets with good spirit. And in Kendo, the evidence of the spirit is the ki-ai. And because in Aikido and the Iai that I practice, we don't make ki-ai, then we have a little bit of how are we going to do this? There are actually modern, there are Iai being practiced now in Japan. Also, I think there's a group in the US where people do ki-ai. Mm-hmm. So it's not exclusive. It's not that all classical styles of Iai don't ki-ai. Some do, but all the ones I practice don't ki-ai. But there is a silent ki-ai, which has to do with using the core, which we have to use anyway. And people who practice something where they ki-ai can sometimes also get a very distinct feeling of, oh, if I just opened my mouth, there would be a sound because I'm doing all the parts except the voicing. But the speech or voice, we think of it when we teach people, we think of it as how to, use the inside of your body to externalize something, which is, that's kind of a very general description of almost any movement that has meaning, right? But it's actually very hard to teach people to ki-ai. Yeah. There's a way in which many people are too shy, right? And they don't know how to do the mechanics. They don't know how to open the throat. They don't know how to, push from underneath in the belly, all kinds of things like that. So we use some breathing to help people get the pushing from underneath part. The opening the throat, that takes time and a certain amount of confidence. When you open anything, you have to have some confidence that it will be safe. You won't be like open your mouth and it get filled with ocean water, right? Or poison gas or whatever. You have to have some confidence that you can do this safely. And I think there's, we mostly have more like social fears, like people will laugh at me if I do that, or they'll all do it right and I'll do it wrong, or one of those things that we all have. But the ki-ai is the expression of something internal. And whether you have a voice or not, it's that internal thing, you want to cultivate that. That's a kind of, when there's no ki-ai, it's an unvoiced, close to invisible strength. And it shows itself in some other things, maybe. But without the ki-ai, it's not a separate, it's not so easily perceived, I think. Does that make sense? No.
Makes total sense. And for me, what I love about Kiken Tai Ichi, I feel we're in a society where the mind is somewhere else and the body is and bringing it together, using the sword and the movement to bring them together is really beautiful in Iai. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, like, what is the role of the body in Iai? And then we'll go on the role of the mind, but what is really the role of the body and how it evolves in Kiken Tai Chi?
Okay, so in the beginning, somebody beginning EI will tend to focus in front of them on their hands and the sword. And they'll just be like so excited, and they'll be so afraid that they'll drop it or hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. Their entire focus is out here in their hands. Over time, people become more confident and more accustomed to the sword, and they're not so worried about it flying away or to break it or whatever. And they can then start to focus closer to themselves in their body, in their feet, their legs, their core, in their chest and shoulders, in the neck. You don't need to focus much above here, actually. You don't want to have too many ideas, because in our culture, as you said, your mind is somewhere over here and your body may not be there. So if you're constantly looking to what's in here for what to do, you may have some disconnects that you don't actually want. We want to teach people to, where is your opponent, your invisible opponent? How can you interact with them? But we don't want to get like too esoteric or too anything, because it separates you in the beginning. When you are more comfortable with your body, with your breathing, with how your body works, how you can be in your body, then you can reach out more without getting lost, without losing the groundedness that you have. Being grounded, where's the floor? Where are my feet on the floor? Where's my feet in relation to my knees and my hips? Where's my breath? Where's my breath sitting? Where's my center? What constitutes my center? Sometimes we use core, which in modern American English means something about muscles. And sometimes if we use center, that's a little less purely muscular and a little more like, okay, where are you? Where are you? And which for me connects to, where are my feet? Where's the floor? How do I stand or sit on the floor? How is the floor standing or sitting or lying down on the earth, right? Where am I? So that's a little esoteric there. So, the real use of the body is taught, stand up this way, sit down this way. And many of the movements that we teach in the beginning are not, for Westerners, at all familiar. These are things like, we don't do this, right? And, so you have to adapt to them. You have to learn them. You have to figure out, okay, this wasn't made for me. And I don't live in a world where this is how everybody moves and how many environments are set up to support it. Like, how many of us have a tatami room at home? Not so many, right? We don't ordinarily, sit in seiza on the floor unless we meditate. We might sit in the cross-legged position, or we might sit in seiza or on a seiza bench or something like that. So we might have a practice, an adjacent practice, where we do some of the physical movements of the eye, or we might not. So people have to get used to this, and they have to come to trust their body can do it. And some people, usually younger people, but not always, are very athletic. They're very quick. They got good pickup, and you just show them something and they do it. And you're like, great, that's wonderful. I'm such a good teacher, right? And you try to teach the same thing to someone who's not so quick, and you're like,
That's me.
But both kinds of students are really important, because our students show us what people need, right? And a good teacher, I think, struggles and hopefully at least sometimes succeeds in finding a way to convey what this particular person needs.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is very, you can't teach 100 people if you're going to teach them with what they need. right? And even sometimes in the size of classes we're having now, I feel like I can't teach as individually as I'd like to. And just a lot of people love EI, apparently. That's very cool. And coming out of the isolation of the pandemic, everybody loves to be in the dojo. Very cool. Right? And it's my job to make sure that they still get the right kind of experience, the right kind of enough individual situated in a group. I think when I first started EI, I thought it was only individual. It was only me. I would just go to practice and do what I did and really enjoy it and go home. And I didn't have much sense of outside of me in the dojo. I mean, I knew other people were practicing along with me, but I didn't have the feeling of we're in a group. And I've come over time to realize that we need both the individual thing, and sort of the katas provide us with that. If you don't do that, then the rest of it doesn't hang together very well. You're just spending too much time socializing. You're not actually practicing. But then that is also in a larger group, right? And a few things we do are specifically more groupy, where we do like, okay, take you 3 people or you 5 people and show us these kata and stay together, right? Or let's all do 1,000 saburi together, right? That's a group activity. And it's the first time you experience how the group holds you up through something that you would not quite have thought you could do is, I think, pretty powerful for people. So these are all body things, and they're both your own body, your own sensations, your feet on the floor, and also people on either side of you or in front of you or behind you, their feet on the same floor. Everybody's trying to learn the same things, both specific same things, like this kata, cut this way, relax your hands here and then squeeze here. And also the individual things, and also the we're together things. They're not like one and then the next and then the next. They're all happening together. It's not quite soup, but maybe like a marble cake.
It's
an image.
No, but it's a good description of like yesterday's practice, for example.
Mm. Right.
Yeah. That's great. So you're speaking about individual body, but also collective body, which can elevate you in,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. And I also like this, what you say, it's a very practical, which something which I also came up with lately. Just go ground yourself in the feet. How do you ground yourself? It's like, you ask, where are you? And it's like, where are you? If you bring your awareness or bring your attention to the feet, you are automatically going down. You get out of your head.
Right. You come out of your head, and you come out of the isolation in your head.
Yeah.
As well as you come into your body, and then you come to your connection. Like, okay, yes, this floor is for me, and it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And it's for itself. The floor is here, and it holds up the walls, which hold up the ceiling. The floor is for me to stand on or sit on, and for everybody else to stand on and sit on. And 50 years from now, unless the building's been taken down, somebody else will be here doing this, and somebody else will get the chance to do what I did.
Great.
I love that. I love how it's like you have to first center yourself to be able to connect from a place of a healthy place, like to be centered. Where am I? Who am I? And then connect with the others in a nice way. Love that.
Right.
Because we usually do the opposite.
Yeah.
I think we often do, and I think especially women often do. Women are more, we're all in Western society, we're all trained to look out for other people and take care of them, and possibly also look out for them and make sure they don't do anything to us, right? Either way. And to value my feet on the floor and my center over my feet it's a step forward. And sometimes it's not so easy to take, right? Because it can feel selfish. It can feel like, I should be watching out for other people and make sure that everybody has enough room, and I'll just minimize myself. But the fact is, everybody should have the same value in the dojo, and you get more out of it if you can value yourself a little bit. Right? not so much like I have more value than you. No, I have the value that I need for me to have. And that's that's moving a little bit into the more spiritual or something, right?
Human. But for me, yeah, it's funny. Like people say, like, why are you doing swords? It's so masculine. I'm like, it's so human, right? It's so beautiful because, as you say, it's about finding myself. Self-exploration is not male or female. It's really about, and as you say, like, we're humans living a life. We need to know who we are, and that's the purpose of here.
Yeah.
A little bit
Although I have to say that I think it's probably easier to think that sword personship is neither male nor female if you have a nice mix of male and female persons. If the entire top third of your dojo is only men and all the women are down near the beginning, you might say, what's that? In our dojo, we have higher ranked women, so that helps. I think it makes a difference to a little bit difference to what people see, what they think is possible. We know that if you can see somebody like you, and you can what the like is up to you, then that calls you forward in a way that you might not if you couldn't see anybody like you. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. If I had visited and you were not there and a couple of women were not there, I would not have joined. I would have been like too scared. But once you're there, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think Anya and we wanted to move a little bit for the energy side. I don't know if we covered that a little bit, or if we want to push it a tiny bit. How do you feel about that, Anya?
Well, I actually kind of maybe quickly wanted to tackle upon the body and aging. I think it's a beautiful topic, which we also mentioned before. Like how's your perception changed? Maybe just in short.
Absolutely. So I've been practicing for close to 40 years, not quite 40 years, and I'm now 70. And there are things that I cannot do that I could do 20 years ago. And there are things that I can do that I couldn't do 20 years ago. Some of the things that I can do have to do with understanding, with managing groups, with things like that. And other things that I can't do are just like, okay, this is really hard for me to stand up. It's really hard for me to get into or out of this posture. And what am I going to do about it? Well, luckily I have good students and I say, here, show people this. And then I explain what they're supposed to be seeing. I wouldn't, in some way I would love to be 50 again, because that would, but I can't be 50 with what I know, right? When I was 50, I didn't know a bunch of things that I know now, and I didn't have certain kinds of confidence. So my body is doing whatever it's doing, and I'm just going to have to deal with it and not deny the changes, not what do I want to say? Not give in to the changes in the sense of, oh, I can't do this, right? It's more like I want to keep the attitude of, oh, well, this is much harder than it used to be, right? I need to understand it, try to figure out ways, try to maintain myself so I can do as much as I can do, and try to value the fact that every practice, every year, the soaking of my being with the practice increases. So that if part of what we do when we practice is allow ourselves to be changed, to be that different person we want to be, that better person we want to be, then every year I get to live, I get to be closer to that person, or I get to be farther along in my path. I don't really know where I'm going, but on the path, I get to go further. And that's, you could think of, well, I have to pay for that with my body. Or you can think, oh, I have to imbue my body with that. I have to get soaked in that and be that. That's, I don't think that I'm avoiding the fact that, you get older, things get hard. Certain things get hard. Some things get easier. Actually, there's a ways in which, like, okay, I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to beat myself up. It's gone, right? So, for instance, I don't have an ACL in my right knee. It's gone. It broke and it resorbed itself and it's gone. And this is part of why certain things are difficult. It's gone. Not going to get a new one. Okay. Aside from making that face and a little hand gesture, I don't know how to describe my response to it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that is wisdom. So we may lose a little bit of body, but we gain wisdom if we embrace that change, as you said, right? If we don't fight it.
And don't pretend it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
I want to try to be realistic with myself, also with my students. So I have students all the way, actually I have at least one student still who's older than me. And I have students from, early 20s, all the way up to, early 60s. So and some of them are people I've been teaching for 10 or 20 years. So I see the changes in them too. I see all their improvements, all their increase in understanding. They get new swords, all kinds of good stuff, right? But also they go through the same, the same arc of like, oh, right, this is really hard now. I went and I got an operation for this, trying to fix it. It's better, but it's still not right. Or it's better, but it still hurts. Those kinds of things do come up for lots of us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect transition from the body to energy and mind. When the body steps back, what jumps in? Yeah. What do you get room for? And I was like really intrigued by how you were speaking about kiai. And kiai is already difficult enough to produce the sound. And how do you express the kiai without the sound? Yeah. Maybe you could talk about this just to bring to express whatever it is in you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that because I also practice one of the arts that does kiai, I think I have a slightly different perspective than somebody who never did. And also I used to do taekwondo where we did kiai. And I remember learning how to kiai and how hard it was to get a voice. I remember experimenting with different noises and different face shapes and all this stuff, attempting to get something that would, do what I could understand kiai was supposed to do. And for me, the kiai is like the way to connect your center to anything else, whether it's the sword, your arms and legs, the room, your opponent. It's the way to bring up out of your center that power, to bring it up and make it connect. So I think sometimes people don't think of kiai as something they connect with. They think of it as just a weapon or just an expression. But I think it's really has to be connecting. And for me, it's connecting my center with my arms and legs, my center with my sword, my center with the space, and my center with whatever else is in the space. And that's a lot of work for one thing to do. But since it's ki, it's fine. Ki can do this, right? If I can hook into it, if I can call it up, if I can deploy it, if I can ask it to help me. One of the things that I think this is combination, COVID lockdown, never seeing anybody, and being 70. I don't know if that's quite old yet or just older, or we're all older, unless we're dead. So, maybe I'm old. But I think that there's a thing that I've, over the past couple of years, that started to happen where instead of always thinking, I have to do this, I'm starting to realize that there's things that are going to happen and I should cooperate with them. And there are things that there is energy. I don't need to just go grab it. I need to cultivate it. I need to let it come to me. I need to let it do what it's going to do if I cultivate it properly, and not force it, not always be the boss, but be one of the elements that makes a whole. And the ki, right, is if it starts from your center, then like, okay, if I'm the center of the universe, which I remember reading about for Aikido, I never could experience it in Aikido myself, but I remember it's like, you're the center of the universe. So if I'm the center of the universe, then the center of me is also the center of the universe, even more than me, because that's the real center of the universe. Then if I'm the center of the universe, then I need to be connected to everything else in the universe. And I need to perceive or cultivate or exercise that connection. Just being the center of the universe is like, nah, who cares about that? What can you do when you're the center of the universe? You can call on the universe to help you. You can call on the universe to hold you up and feed you and let you go.
Yeah, I was also struggling with this being the center of the universe, but then I read another sentence, rephrased, I think, which said, wherever you are, there is the center of the universe, which helped me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
right.
Wherever I go, I carry it with the potential. So this potential, learning to access that potential. Yeah, great, perfect. Wow.
And I love that combination of center and interconnection, not self-centered, but like using that centering for connecting and supporting and allowing other things to happen, versus, whoa, I'm the center, being able to do that.
Yeah. And to have that feeling that it's sort of an image, it's sort of an understanding. To me, I feel this real visceral sense of placement, and I'm placed in a real environment, right? Like there's a real floor and I'm connected to it. It's not that, I have this idea of a center kind of floating around somewhere. No, it's right here and it's right now. And that, I think, is one of the gifts of EI, that right here, right now, and everything else is everything else, and before and after and all around you. But right here, right now, this is what I am. This is what I'm doing. And that's a very strong experience when you start to have it, I think. And to be able to give yourself to it, to dedicate yourself to it, is very powerful.
I love that, because at the end, that's what connects. For example, sometimes I always say Reiki and EI are very connected, and being fully present without distraction is the goal of Reiki. But because there is no body movement, it's sometimes very hard. And for me, that gift, like EI is giving me that, and that Kiken Tai Chi for me is really the gateway to that full presence that you're describing. Which again, compared to my experience, I experienced probably 2 seconds out of 2 hours of struggling with my knees and my hands. But it's such beautiful 2 seconds to have. It's
that unity, and it's not something automatic. It's you have to work for it. I have to work for it. It's not like I just go in the dojo and it happens. I have to practice. I have to focus my mind properly, and I have to continue to cultivate the things that support it. And and then some days it comes. Some days, nah, I can't find it. It's just like it's sleeping, or I'm sleeping, or somebody's not connecting here. But I do think the whole idea of the connection is that, for me, is, that's something that I've been cultivating and trying to explore and trying to learn and trying to make for at least 10 years, maybe longer. And it's only coming into a clearer understanding now. And I think a little bit of that is the time where I just basically couldn't do much except by myself, from the COVID, and also from getting to be 70. That this is, it's possible to actually learn stuff still. Right?
Great. Yeah, great. I think we actually already covered the key part, haven't we?
Over everything. But I think I would like to close with that question that we have, and what do we cut with, right? In AI, Cuts are very important. And what do we cut it with, and maybe how it changes as well, right?
So, like I said in the beginning, people are focused out there on their hands and the sword, and and so they're cutting with their hands. Maybe they're cutting with the sword, but probably not. Probably they're cutting with their hands. And then later on, we get a better sense of cutting with our body. How should my body be placed? How should my balance be? How much muscular effort do I need to put in? How much just use your posture muscles and stand up and don't do anything you don't have to do. So then we're a little closer to cutting with our body. But I think in the end, or in the future, we want to cut with our heart or with our guts, or both of them. We do need our body. If you don't have a body, it's really hard. Right? If you don't have a sword, it's still possible, but it's easier if you have a sword to cut with your whole being. That's really what I think we want to do. We want to cut with our whole being, and the ability to focus and dedicate. That's what we practice when we practice. We practice focusing. We practice not being distracted. We practice getting clearer and clearer and clearer on what we're doing, and removing extraneous movement or things that make it harder, and just throwing away things that we don't need, and realizing that we don't need them. I think there are many things that we accumulate over our life, sometimes in response to other things, and sometimes we just, as I think I mentioned this yesterday, we all love to embroider. We all love to add filigree and stuff, right? And EI has a specific aesthetic of don't do anything you don't need to do. And this means standing naked in front of yourself. That's what it means. And that's really hard, but you can teach yourself how to do it. And so that when you are without anything, you are right there, right now.
Which is Kiken Tai-Ichi.
Which is Kiken Tai-Ichi, yes. Where the ki, which, in its smallest understanding is our breath. Bigger is our connection to the outside. And the biggest connection, the biggest version of ki is the energy of the universe, right? That's the one where every one of us is the center of the universe, right? And the energy is everywhere, right? That's that stuff. Then there's this external object, the sword. And then there's us, the body, which happens to come with the mind most of the time, right? We want to use all of those to make one large thing, one emotion event, one be here. At a certain point, it gets really hard to describe beyond be right here. Just do this. And I'm not, this is the same way I have the same struggle to describe it to myself, not just externalize, not just saying it out loud, but like when I was practicing for my 7th Dan test, I went through a long period of practicing where I kept asking, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And sometimes I would get an answer of, oh, well, I'm trying to do this. That was always, I'm trying to, right? And that the true answer that I got was, I'm doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, speechless.
Yeah. Sensei, there are no words to express the gratitude for all that you're sharing. It's very clear. I know you're saying like you don't express it clear to yourself, but it's coming across so clear and so inspiring as well, because I think a lot of us, when we start in EI, we're so worried about placing our feet or feeling where our feet are. And obviously we're not going to feel this, but it's nice to know what is the ultimate goal, right? Because it's easier to follow a path when you know where you're supposed to reach. And then you, instead of like taking the path like this, you're probably going to have, a clear destination. So I really appreciate very much you sharing this time, because there's things that sometimes at the dojo we actually don't talk because we're practicing, right?
Right.
So I really appreciate that. Anya, I don't know if there are questions on the live thing. sometimes people have
I didn't see
Just
any
be
questions
blessed.
coming. So anyway, people are welcome to ask still the questions whenever they watch it. Maybe they watch it again, or they didn't have questions yet, but they will come up. So please ask the questions. I just wanted to add that for me, it's also what you said is indeed very clear, and thank you for comparison to also Aikido and things to make it more clear. Great. And the when we practice Kikentai Ichi, we do it, of course, on the mat. You do it with a sword. We do it sometimes with a sword, sometimes with the technique. But it's all, like you said, the expression of the to be whole. You can take it with into life. That's what's important for me. And I think this is what we practice. We can take it with. It's not that they are in a dojo. We can bring it with, and this is, for me, why we practice. Yeah.
I think so. And that centeredness, that, sort of visceral knowing who you are, then that, if that goes with you, that's in you.
Yeah.
So if you're out the dojo, you're in the dojo, you're, at dinner, you're in church, you're wherever you are, you're still there. That's you. You're still centered in that way. And you have that strength and that awareness. You can just, use it to be there, wherever there is.
And especially to not have those things which we do not need. Like
Yes.
Yeah,
Which is sometimes those things we don't need are sometimes objects, and sometimes they're movements, and sometimes they're attitudes, right? Or opinions, but more attitudes, I think. Like you don't actually need, you discover for yourself that, oh, I don't need that. I can be here, and I can go from here to there without the help of that. I don't need that.
Perfect. Yes.
And again, that's, letting things go, and it can be scary, but it's how your strength is born, like the shell of the object or the movement or the attitude that you don't need. That's a shell. It breaks open, and you go forward new-ish.
But it's true. Like, it's because that's the real strength at the end, right? We add all those shells to feel strong, but we're actually not. So really that liberation, it's quite interesting as well. And being nudish, it is a hard work. So it's nice to have a practice that helps you support being able to let go of all of that.
Right, where we have the experience of, right, if I don't do that, things will be better. We have that experience in the dojo, whether we're an Aikido or Iai or Jodo or whatever we're practicing. We have that experience of getting rid of something that's getting in our way and succeeding both in getting rid of it and in the thing that we were trying to do that it was interfering with. So we get two successes, with this shedding of things that we don't actually need. We thought we needed them, and maybe at some point in the past we did need them. But part of our process in Budo is to work out only what we need and not be carrying around other things, right? It's like, if you're not a turtle, you don't need a shell on your back.
I never put it like that, but I'm stealing that expression because most of us in New York are like huge turtles carrying many layers of shells, and it's heavy.
And it's heavy.
It's like when you're 20, you can carry your shell. When I'm close to 50, like that shell was too heavy. I'm like, okay, we need to start shedding that shell. We don't have the strength to carry it. So that is a beautiful metaphor.
Indeed. To finish up with, I think also. Yeah.
It's always hard to finish these things. I always want to keep on talking and chatting. Thank you so much to both. And again, any questions, you can add them to the Facebook Live. And we will also be sharing this interview open like in a week or two to everyone else. And again, Sensei, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. This was wonderful to prepare for and wonderful to do. I really feel well connected to you. And even though you're in Holland, I feel connected over the internet, over the ocean. Actually, the internet is under the ocean on the wires, but still, right? I feel like our conversational rhythm is very, nice and sticky. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me and for doing it.